I feel like we're on the eve of making history. One of the ways we're going to finish what we started in the recall. A lot of us were disappointed at the result. At the end of the day, over 4 million people rose up against our governor, said enough is enough. For me, that was like a jab. And we're about to deal the uppercut. And I'm super excited about that. Second reason I'm excited about making history. When we win, we're going to do it with a very non-traditional campaign, very grassroots. A campaign that started on street corners and school boards and in coffee shops and parks, living rooms. We're going to do it. I'm super excited about unseating Newsom in a traditional way. And the last piece of history I'm excited about is we get an opportunity to elect the very first Hispanic governor in California history. We're going to make history. So 1875, we had a Hispanic governor, but he was elected as lieutenant governor in the role when the governor went to Senate. So this will be the first time in California history an opportunity to elect a Hispanic, and I'm super excited about it. So how are we going to do that? It's because we're going to give Californians a different option, something that looks a little non-traditional. Let me tell you my story and how I think we're going to get there. So my story begins in Esperanza, Cuba, where my grandfather was born. He was a cigar roller for the Upman factory, but he had a dream to come to the United States to provide a better life for his family. So he saved up, and he waited till he was able to get a visa, and he came to this country legally. But he came alone because he could only afford one plane ticket. He left my grandmother behind and my 3 aunts. Came to this country, ended up in Watts. Anybody know where Watts is? It's not Beverly Hills, is it? Took him 6 months to be able to save enough money to send for the family. At that point, my father was 6 months old, brought my 3 aunts and my grandmother, and they set up shop in Huntington Park. My grandfather, not wanting to depend on the government, was determined to be an entrepreneur, and he did just that. He started a metal finishing business over 50 years ago, off 55th and Alameda. That company still exists today. My father runs it. It's successful not by Forbes standards, but it for my dad's family, for ours. And they instilled that entrepreneurial spirit into me. And when I was 18, I thought I would take over the family business. So my dad gave me a job. And 3 months later, he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Son, you're fired." O.J. Simpson trial, first reality TV show in America. And I guess I was doing a lot more TV watching than invoicing, so I was fired. So he sent me on my way. He said, "You're going to find your own path, son." I was 18, and I did just that. A couple years later, I met this beautiful woman in the back, Jennifer. I was 19. She was 17. We've been married for 25 years, together for 26. We have 5 beautiful children, 4 biological, 1 adopted, and we were foster care parents for a season. 2 of my sons are standing there in the back right there. We had very, very humble beginnings. When my wife and I started our family, we were in a small and eating hamburger helper without the meat because we couldn't afford the ground beef. True story. We had a cardboard box as a coffee table. Do you guys remember before Rite Aid took over Thrifties? Thrifties used to sell these white plastic patio sets. Yep. That was our dining table. And we had a refrigerator that was lent to us. We had nothing and everything at the same time because we had each other and we had our faith. And so a few years after that, determined to do what my grandfather did, which was a better life for his family, I started a small company in Downey, California. 200 square foot office, no bigger than the bathroom here. Through a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, many times we'd go months without being able to pay ourselves. A lot of prayer and a lot of God's good grace. I built that company up over the next 20 years to be what Inc. magazine just called one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. I did that in 2020 in the height of a pandemic. We have a global reach. Our work is seen in 50 countries, different languages. I am the manifestation of the American dream. From Esperanza, Cuba, to what we are doing now. In 21, I thought our best year was ahead of us. And then I started to smell smoke. I started to hear about what was being taught in our public school systems. Critical race theory, sexuality, gender studies, conversations that should never take place at school. Maybe not even at the dining table at home, to be honest with you. I started that were still open yet. Businesses, franchise businesses that had closed and would never reopen again. I started to see the medical freedom. I started to see crime. And I told my wife, this place is on fire. We need to go to Florida, like so many people have. And she looked at me and she said, Anthony, you need to stop. And you need to really think about what we're leaving behind. I said, absolutely not. He said, no, I want you to really think about what we're leaving behind. And over the course of a month and a lot of prayer, I finally did turn around. When I turned around, I expected to see a burning building that I wanted to get away from. But instead, God opened my eyes. I saw a burning building, but now I saw 40 million people trapped inside. I saw people that looked very familiar. I saw my mom, my dad, my nephews, my nieces, my siblings. I saw our church, my employees, and millions of faces that I did not recognize, but I knew they could not just up and leave. And I'm trying to raise boys into men. So I asked myself, what will I teach my young men, my young boys about life? And get up and leave with you. That when times get tough, you just up and leave. What lesson would that teach them? So I arm wrestled with God for about a month. And whenever you arm wrestle with God, he always wins. I said, what do you want me to do about it? What would you have me do? And he made it clear. I want you to run back into that burning building, and I want you to save as many people as you can. For us, that looked like a run for governor. Not because I ever desired to be a politician, but because politicians aren't coming to save us. And so, anybody in here believe in God or read the Bible? Almost everyone unanimously. I talk to people all the time about what I'm setting out to do. Non-believers will tell you it's impossible to flip win. Newsom is too strong. The election integrity failed. There's problems all over. We're never going to win. I thank them for their time. I ask them for their vote, and then I move on. Problem with them being in disbelief because they don't understand this is not about politics. This is about good and evil. I have a problem with believers doubting what is possible. That I have a problem with because I would say to everybody that raised your hand, so you're telling me you believe in omnipresent God, the heavens and the earth, just by speaking them into existence, but we can't unseat a governor? You're telling me the whale swallowed a man and that a man was put into a lion's den and not devoured? The three men were thrust into a furnace that was so hot that the men pushing them in were devoured by or consumed by flames. These three men entered the furnace, walked out, and not in their clothes smelled like smoke. But you don't believe we can take back our state? Believe that he parted the sea, fed the multitude with the few loaves, that the lame can walk, the blind can see, that a man hung on a cross, died, 3 days later walked out. You believe that, but you don't believe we can take back our state? It's time we start leveling up, and it's time we start operating in the fullness and the authority that we've been given as heirs to the throne. And I'll leave you with this. I was just in Northern California, Destiny Church, Charlie Kirk, Greg Farrington. They pulled me up on stage. Greg Farrington handed me this rock, and he said, Anthony, when I was in Israel, I went to the place where David slayed Goliath, and I pulled this stone out of the riverbed. I want you to have this because I believe you're in a David and Goliath battle. How many of you believe that there's a giant in Sacramento that needs to be slayed? Well, it just so happens that my middle name is David. Thank you so much. Appreciate